Lately, you've been feeling alone. Not just, I need a night in, alone. The kind of alone that gnaws at you when you unlock your phone and nothing's there. No new messages, no missed calls, another weekend with no plans. You watch other people's stories, crowded tables, group photos, noise, and then you look at your own life and there's just quiet. And in that quiet, your chest gets heavy, your mind starts spinning, and a question keeps circling. What's wrong with me? Let's start with something nobody ever told you. That feeling isn't proof that something is wrong with you. It's evidence that something is changing in you. You see, loneliness rarely shows up by accident. It usually arrives as a consequence. It appears when you stop playing the role you were assigned. When you stop laughing at jokes that don't amuse you. When you stop saying yes to things that drain you. When the part of you that wants to grow finally gets louder than the part of you that wants to belong. You begin to outgrow your environment, and your environment feels that, even if no one can explain it. The conversations that used to entertain you now feel empty. The people who once felt like home now feel like a waiting room. Your priorities shift, and the people built on comfort notice, even if they never say it out loud. So, they drift. Not with drama, not with big arguments or explosions, but silently. Texts slow down. Invitations stop appearing. You're not in the group photo anymore, and your brain, trained for years to equate connection with constant presence, panics. If they're gone, I must be the problem. I must be broken. No. Listen carefully. Your loneliness might not be a punishment. It might be feedback, a signal that you are no longer willing to participate in the same illusions as before. We're raised on a simple story. Being surrounded by people is success. Being alone is failure. We're told that a full social calendar equals a full life, that a quiet phone equals a sad life. But nobody explains the fine print. Most of the people around you are not there because they truly see you. They're there because you play a role that benefits them. Maybe your role was the one who listens at 2 a.m., the one who always shows up to help them move, the one who makes everyone laugh, the one who never says no. You were their comfort, their distraction, their therapist, their entertainer. And in return, you got presence. Not always respect, not always reciprocity, just bodies in the room, names in your chat list. Then something happened. You started asking yourself different questions. What do I actually want? Why do I keep saying yes when everything in me wants to say no? Would these people still be here if I stopped being useful? And when you began acting on those questions, when you started setting boundaries, when you stopped sacrificing your energy for everyone else, something predictable happened. They left. Not because you became worse, but because you stopped being convenient. That's the moment when it hurts the most. You sit there scrolling, realizing how many friendships were actually transactions. You weren't part of a tribe, you were part of a service. And now those bonds are dissolving, and it feels like your world is shrinking. But ask yourself honestly, did you really lose something precious? Or did you just lose the performance? This is the brutal, liberating function of loneliness. It removes the audience, so you are forced to meet the actor. When the crowd disappears, what's left is you. Without your titles, without your social roles, without the version of yourself you polished to fit in. Loneliness is not just an empty room, it's a mirror. And that mirror doesn't show your filters, your posts, your curated life. It shows your unedited self. No wonder it scares you. Centuries ago, Machiavelli wrote about rulers, power, and strategy. But beneath the politics, there was a simple idea. A person who can stand alone in their judgment is dangerous, because they cannot be steered by flattery or fear. He wasn't advocating physical isolation. He was pointing at something deeper: mental independence. You reach that independence when you no longer need every decision to be validated, when you stop waiting for people to approve of your path before you walk it, when you build a core so stable that the noise outside no longer dictates the voice inside. But here's the paradox. The path to that kind of strength often starts in the most fragile state, when you're sitting alone, feeling abandoned, trying not to fall apart. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. You are going through withdrawal. For years, your brain has been fed on tiny hits of validation. Someone replied to your story, a small dopamine spike. Someone liked your post, another hit. Group chat blowing up, you feel relevant. Plans every weekend, you feel normal. Now suddenly the notifications have slowed, the constant chatter has faded, and your nervous system, deprived of its usual diet, feels empty. You interpret that emptiness as, I'm unlovable, I'm failing at life. But what if that emptiness is not proof of your worthlessness, but the space being cleared so something more honest can grow? Like any addiction, the first stage of breaking it feels worse than staying stuck. Your body craves the familiar, the constant distraction, the constant stimulation, the constant proof that you exist in other people's eyes. Yet this discomfort is a sign that a pattern is cracking. You're not collapsing, you're detoxing. You're withdrawing from the need to constantly be seen in order to feel real. Now, there are two kinds of loneliness. Synthetic loneliness, the kind you feel in a crowded room, at a loud party, in a busy group chat where nobody actually knows you. Authentic solitude, the silence you choose, the space where you stop pretending, the moment when you admit, right now, it's just me. The first kind is disguised. You're technically with people, but you feel like a ghost. You keep performing because you're afraid if you stop, they'll leave. Ironically, you are already alone, just alone in costume. The second kind is raw. No costume, no mask, no performance. Just you, your thoughts, your doubts, your desires. Most people will do anything to avoid that second kind. They'll stay in shallow relationships, keep up dead conversations, agree to plans that exhaust them, just to avoid facing themselves in the stillness. But if you're here, if you're listening to this, it means life has already pushed you into that stillness. The stage lights went off, the seats emptied, the door closed. Now it's just you. The question is, what will you do with that? Look at the people we admire in history, not the ones who were just famous, but the ones who changed something fundamental. Philosophers, artists, leaders, thinkers. They all had seasons where they stepped away from the crowd, periods where they walked alone, wrote in silence, thought in isolation, questioned everything they had inherited. They weren't being punished by loneliness, they were being forged by it. Not every quiet season creates something great. Some people waste theirs drowning in comparison and self-pity, but every great transformation has a quiet season. So if you're in yours, the important question is not why am I alone? It's what am I doing with this aloneness? Because there is a version of loneliness that destroys you. That version looks like this. You spend hours scrolling through other people's highlight reels. You replay old conversations in your head, picking apart every word. You build elaborate stories about why they didn't text back. You label yourself unwanted, boring, not enough. Days blur into nights, and you do nothing but compare, complain, and catastrophize. That is not deep introspection. That is self-pity wearing a poetic mask. Self-pity feels honest because it's painful, but it's actually one of the most effective ways to stay exactly where you are. Then there's another version of loneliness. It doesn't feel heroic either. You're still hurting. You're still uncertain. But instead of just asking why no one is calling, you start acting on the time that no one is filling. You read one chapter instead of scrolling one more hour. Go on a walk and actually think instead of numbing out. Learn a skill you always said you didn't have time for. Write, reflect, set goals, experiment. Not because it instantly fixes the emptiness, but because you refuse to let that emptiness be wasted. That's where the shift happens. Loneliness is destructive when it becomes a story about how powerless you are. Loneliness becomes transformative when it becomes a decision about what you will do anyway. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors those who act, those who move while others hesitate. Apply that to your situation. Most people, when they feel isolated, freeze. They stop evolving and wait for someone to pull them out. What if you chose the opposite? What if this is the season where you move the most, not outward, in social circles and constant interaction, but inward, in understanding and rebuilding yourself? Because here's another truth nobody tells you. The person who learns to be okay alone becomes very difficult to control. If you don't need constant approval, you're harder to guilt trip. You're harder to manipulate with silence or attention. You're harder to keep small with the threat of exclusion. You stop bending just to be tolerated. You begin choosing what aligns with your values, not what keeps the most people comfortable. Will that make some people uncomfortable? Absolutely. Think back for a moment. How many times have you nodded along with something you disagreed with, just to avoid conflict? Laughed at a joke that targeted someone, or even you, because you didn't want to seem sensitive? Agreed to plans that made you miserable, just to avoid feeling left out? Hidden what you really think, really believe, really want, because you didn't want to be seen as too much, or too serious, or too different. Every time you did that, you traded a piece of authenticity for a brief moment of acceptance. You trimmed yourself down to fit a space that was never designed for your full size. And then one day, you look around and realize the people around you like the cut-down version of you. They're comfortable with the edited version of you. They have no idea who you actually are. At that point, there's only one of two outcomes. You keep acting forever and call it having a social life. You stop acting, and the cast around you quietly walks off the stage. You chose option 2, or life chose it for you. Now you're standing there in the sudden silence, wondering if you made a terrible mistake. You didn't. You just stopped using people as a shield against your own reflection. Now we arrive at the hardest question of all. Can you sit with yourself, with no noise, no distraction, no performance, and not turn away? When the room is quiet, when the screen is dark, when the phone is face down, what appears? For some people, it's peace. They feel a strange sense of alignment, even if life isn't perfect. Their own company doesn't feel like punishment. For many others, it's anxiety, racing thoughts, old regrets, unfinished grief, a desperate urge to do anything other than be alone with their mind. If that's you, hear this carefully. The goal is not to tolerate loneliness. The goal is to repair your relationship with yourself. Because you can. Have hundreds of friends and still feel misunderstood if you don't understand yourself. Be in a romantic relationship and still feel empty if you secretly resent who you've become. Be surrounded by people and still feel like you're acting every second you're awake. Loneliness isn't just pulling people away. It's stripping excuses away so you can finally ask, who am I when I'm not trying to impress anyone? What do I care about when no one is watching? What am I willing to work for even if no one claps? Those answers don't come from more applause. They come from more silence. Machiavelli made a famous distinction. It's better to be respected than to be loved. That doesn't mean kindness doesn't matter. It means that real power isn't built on performing for approval. It's built on being unshakable in your convictions. You earn respect by saying no, when everyone expects you to say yes. Holding your ground when your values are mocked. Making choices that align with your vision, even when they cost you comfort. People will not always like you for that. In fact, many will dislike you because of that. They will label your distance as arrogance, your boundaries as selfishness, your focus as coldness. You'll stop getting invited to the same things. You'll stop being the safe, agreeable person in the room. You'll feel the chill of being on the outside. That's the fork in the road. One path. You apologize for growing. You shrink back, soften your boundaries, rejoin the noise, pretend you're fine. You get your invitations back, but you lose something far more valuable: yourself. The other path. You keep walking. You accept the temporary isolation that comes with refusing to betray yourself again. And yes, it is temporary. Not because some magical soul tribe is guaranteed to show up if you just love yourself enough. Life doesn't work like an inspirational quote, but because when you live in alignment, develop your mind, strengthen your character, do the work consistently, even in obscurity, you become a different kind of person. And different kinds of people are drawn to you. Not the ones who just want entertainment or emotional labor. Not the ones who only show up when you're glowing and disappear when you're struggling. You start attracting people who are also building, people who respect boundaries because they have their own, people who don't need you to be smaller so they can feel bigger. Those connections are rarer. They take longer to appear. They require you to walk through a long stretch of desert first. That desert is where you are now. The desert of solitude is brutal. No map, no cheering section, no guaranteed outcome. It's just you versus your procrastination, your fear of failure, your need to be seen as normal, your desire to run back to whatever feels familiar. Many people start that journey and then turn around halfway. Not because the path was impossible, but because they saw parts of themselves they didn't want to confront. Their jealousy, their laziness, their dependence, their bitterness. So, they go back to the noise, and they call it moving on. But deep down, they know they didn't move on. They retreated. You, right now, have a different opportunity. You have the chance to stay just a little longer. To keep walking when everything in you is screaming to go back. Every day you choose growth over distraction. Choose honesty over performance. Choose effort over passive wishing. You're not just getting through loneliness. You're building something inside of it. Society is not designed for people who don't need constant approval. Most systems, social, economic, cultural, run smoother when people follow trends, chase the same goals, fear exclusion, confuse visibility with value. That's why independence gets labeled as rebellion and solitude gets labeled as failure. A person who doesn't panic at being alone can leave an unhealthy job, can walk away from a toxic relationship, can say no to a group that demands conformity, can make decisions that look strange to everyone else, and sleep just fine at night. That kind of person is difficult to predict, difficult to pressure, difficult to control. So yes, when you become that person, some people will try to pull you back, not with reasoned arguments, but with guilt. You've changed. You're distant now. You think you're better than us? You never come around anymore. What they're really saying is, you're no longer behaving in a way that makes me comfortable. Go back to the version of you I could count on to prioritize my comfort over your growth. Your job is not to start a war with them. Your job is to quietly refuse to trade your evolution for their approval. There's a phrase people love to post online: better to be alone than in bad company. Most people agree with it in theory. Very few live by it in practice. In practice, people accept half-hearted love, one-sided friendships, conversations that go nowhere, social circles that mock their ambitions, all because the thought of sitting alone on a Friday night feels unbearable. But think long-term. When your life is almost over, what will matter more? That you were rarely alone in a room, or that you became someone you can genuinely respect? The parties, group chats, and casual hangouts will blur. What won't blur is the answer to this question. Did I bet on myself when no one else was betting on me? So let's flip your current situation. Right now, you might be uninvited, untexted, unchecked on. But what if this isn't a verdict on your value? What if this is your exam? Not a test graded by other people, but a test graded by your future self. The questions on that exam look like this. What did you build with your quiet time? Did you get to know yourself or just distract yourself? Did you strengthen your mind or feed your bitterness? Did you learn to enjoy your own company, or did you just wait for someone to rescue you from it? You don't have to ace every question. You don't have to turn into some flawless, hyper-productive machine. But you do have to choose, because doing nothing is also a choice. Think of your loneliness as a forge. A forge is not a comfortable place. Metal doesn't enjoy high temperatures, but without heat and pressure, it stays soft, shapeless, easy to bend into whatever others want. Is that what you want to be? The season you're in right now, where your phone is quiet, your weekends are open, your room is silent, this is the fire. This is where excuses burn away. Illusions about other people fall apart. Illusions about yourself fall apart too. What's left is raw material. Your actual values, your actual abilities, your actual fears. You can do two things with that. Bury it under distraction or shape it into something solid. And here's the strangest part. If you endure this season, if you build in this silence, something subtle starts to shift. You stop entering rooms wondering, do they like me? You start wondering, do I like who I am in this room? You stop asking, why don't they invite me? You start asking, do these spaces even deserve my time? Your worth stops being a fragile stock price that rises and falls with attention. It becomes a steady baseline you carry, whether anyone's looking or not. From that place, you speak differently. You walk differently. You choose differently. You no longer cling to people out of fear. You connect with people out of alignment. And ironically, the less you chase, the more you attract. The less you beg for company, the more interesting you become. The less you need the room, the more the room starts noticing you. Machiavelli said a ruler must be both fox and lion. The fox sees through deception. The lion refuses to be intimidated. Solitude develops both in you. When you're alone, you have time to observe patterns, the way people behave, the way you react, the loops you keep repeating. You have space to analyze your past choices without others constantly talking over your thoughts. You have freedom to act without asking permission, to test new habits, new projects, new ways of being. Most people never develop that duality because they're always in one mode, either always watching but never acting, or always acting but never reflecting. Use your loneliness to train both. Spend time thinking deeply, not just worrying endlessly. Spend time doing deliberately, not just distracting compulsively. That combination, clear perception and decisive action, is rare. It's what divides those who merely endure life from those who shape it. So, where does this leave you? You're alone more than you'd like. Your phone is quieter than it used to be. Some people you thought would always be there aren't. It hurts. It's confusing. It's tempting to see all of this as proof that you're behind, broken, or unlovable. But step back and look again. What if instead, this is confirmation that you're no longer satisfied with shallow connections, that your old roles no longer fit you, that you're moving at a different speed than the people who preferred you small and predictable? What if this is not the end of your story, but the middle chapter, the one where the main character is forced into the wilderness to discover who they really are? In every story, that chapter feels like exile. Only later does it reveal itself as preparation. You are in that chapter now. So here's your invitation. Don't rush to escape this season. Don't numb it away with noise. Don't run back to people who only loved the edited version of you. Instead, use the silence to rebuild your respect for yourself. Use the free time to plant skills, ideas, and habits that your future self will thank you for. Use the absence of shallow company to become the kind of person who naturally attracts deep company. You are not being punished. You are being refined. Right now, you stand in a space most people are terrified to enter. A life quieter than you'd like, with more questions than answers, with more inner work than outer validation. Stay here long enough to let it change you, because one day you will look back at this season, not at the highlight reels, not at the crowded rooms, but at these lonely nights, these silent mornings, these unnoticed efforts, and you'll realize this was where it happened. This was where you stopped living as a reflection of others and became real to yourself. Loneliness didn't break you. It broke the version of you that depended on everyone else. And from what remained, you finally started to grow.